From the Toronto Star, I'm Saba Itazaz, and this matters.
It's the cream that does them.
1. Lightens skin tone. 2. Reduces dark spots. 3. Sunscreens prevent them from coming back. Flawless glow is just 7 days away.
It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and one that's bombarded people with images of white skin. If you only have that, you can be happy, desirable, successful. But the Black Lives Matter movement has gained traction, calling out racism around the world. And it has pressured top brands to rethink and repackage their wares. Top beauty and lifestyle brands like L'Oreal, Unilever, and Johnson & Johnson are now dropping words like fair and whitening to promote their products. But that raises the question, what's in a name? Some experts are worried that nothing has really changed, and dropping the words hasn't altered the problematic messaging or the ingredients. And it's also being sold to white women with a different message. It's 2020, and we all know this is happening. So why does it continue? Amina Mire is an associate professor of critical race theory and women in health at Carleton University. She has literally written the book on the subject called Wellness in Whiteness, Biomedicalization and Promotion of Whiteness in Youth Among Women. And she's going to tell us what we need to know about rebranded skin whitening creams. Hello, Professor Mire. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
I want to know what were your initial thoughts when the news came that the big companies such as Unilever and Johnson & Johnson, for example, decided to brand these creams in this way by changing a couple of words. What do you think about that?
It was not only Johnson's & Johnson's and Unilever, it was also the biggest one, L'Oreal and others. Well, my initial response was definitely a big cynical ha-ha, because these corporations have been ignoring activists from the global south for decades. They have been denying that their marketing strategies and marketing languages has anything to do with race. They've always resort back to such themes as consumer choice, local traditions, caste system, etc., etc. But Black Lives Matter have forced them to actually admit that whiteness is the best. You need whiteness to be good, to be happy, to be successful. Promulgated not only consumer and the promotional messages, but what I call commodity racism, that is promulgated ideology as well. So, in a sense, that was a tacit admission of the fact that they were promoting a product with social and ethical implications, and the fact that they admitted they will no longer use the word whitening and whiteners is an admission, is a tacit admission of guilt.
So this, in your opinion, was an attempt in a way to respond to the global racial reckoning we're witnessing with the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yes, and it actually shows the global implications, the global impact of Black Lives Matter. It really is sea changing, mountain moving, the reckoning of not only the decade, but of many, many decades and many, many centuries. I think this was quite remarkable.
Right. And I've been reading your research on this and a number of articles around this. And does this lead to a bigger conversation around what exactly is in a name change? From the information, it seems that they're still selling the same products and the ingredients inside this product are still the same. They still whiten the skin, so to speak. So the problem, is it really solved?
Well, this is very important, because actually rebranding and name changing is as old as slavery itself. If you read the American 13th Amendment, which gave Black people the right for citizenship, included a clause that most people are not aware of, except criminals. So criminals can be still be used as slaves. So the idea of rebranding and renaming without changing the underlying structures is an old story. And I was not at all surprised that they said they will not use the name instead of saying they will no longer promote this type of products.
And by now, pretty much everyone knows from the research that skin whitening has proven to be damaging, both physically and mentally and socially, as you're talking about. But why is the market for skin whitening still growing? We know that experts are predicting this market will be worth 31.2 billion US dollars by 2024. Why is this still big business?
I think for those who, through marketing, believe that between their dream of professional success and personal happiness is few shades of lighter skin will not be deterred by any sense of health risks. This has been proven for many, many medical documents and many, many research. People are aware that this product have health risks, but they consider it's a risk worth taking given what they think is on the other side of few shades of lighter skin tone. And I think that is such a powerful marketing and a powerful ideology to be considered. And if you are familiar with the African American literature, this was also noted in Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. The desire to be loved, to succeed, to be accepted is very powerful. And there's nothing more, I think, in our society more powerful and more debilitating and more enticing than the desire for whiteness.
And is this what you mean when you speak of commodity racism and the fact that these skin whitening products are actually an enduring sign of commodity racism? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Commodity racism is a very complex idea, but what it really says in kind of common language is that using commodities, either by using images or text or both, to convey not only promotion for products, but also to promulgate ideology. For instance, so skin whitening is not about desire just for lighter skin tones, but what it entails in terms of acceptance, wellness, betterness, cleanliness, happiness. This is therefore a way to promulgate wider ideological beliefs by using simple products like commodity.
Mm-hmm. And I want to talk a little bit more about that. In certain parts of the world, as you're also mentioning, these whitening products continue to promise lighter skin. And that's considered social and cultural currency in a way, isn't it? What does it mean for people living in that kind of systemic colorism atmosphere to want lighter skin? What does it represent for them?
I think since actually Black Lives Matter came to the fore, a number of researchers have admitted that it has been a mistake to truncate the analysis between colorism and racism. If you look at colorism, yes, the focus is on class and caste. But if you, on the other hand, look at race and Jim Crow laws, again, what they share, what they have in common is the color line. Both in the caste system and in the racial system of Jim Crow, the emphasis on investment on the skin color. And it's not accidental that it was under Jim Crow in the United States that, in fact, skin whitening for the first time became a commercial enterprise. So I think that we need to look at colorism and racism not as a distinct social practices, but as a continuum.
What I found really interesting in your research was you were talking about when it comes to these skin whitening products, they've already apparently been marketed under different labels and to white women. So could you talk a little bit more about that? These skin whitening products are being sold to white women as well under another problematic message?
I think the marketing of whitening powders and lead wafers to white women have started early in 18th century, in 19th century, and especially in the age of industrialization in Britain, you see the kind of a new image of different types of women. Like, for instance, here I'm talking about the British focus on women as the angel in the house, the focus on the ethereal women, the women that is clothed and shrouded in ethereal linen, versus the working class women who are invisible. So the idea that whiteness is associated with class, but also with protection and with shielding women of the upper classes and the middle classes, it actually emerged in the age of industrialization in Britain, where you see masses of working class women and men moving to cities. So notions of pollution, urban noise, and all sorts of, the great unwashed. This is a term that's very popular in sociological literature, in British literature in particular. That's actually where you see the association of lighter and ethereal femininity with upper class women. So this is not a new concept. And actually, it was in that period where cosmetic companies actually started developing products that actually make women glow. And this is actually very important, because glow in that period was to remove shine. This is very important because shine is a reflection of sweating, of dirt, and that implies on physicality and working class women. So that is where you really need to look at how it first begun in promoting things like glowing skin, brighteners to white women. And in our age, what you really see is what enter into this is anti-aging wellness and the notion of hyperpigmentation, dull skin, environmental pollution, again, associated with white women losing that youthful glow. And that could be restored by recuperative and wellness-promoting whiteness vis-a-vis skin whitening.
I was actually going to ask you about that as well, as to how these products have been repurposed in a way to also convey rather problematic messages on ageism, right?
Yes.
And you have literally written the book on this, and you talk about how consumers might be participating in what you call racialization and biomedicalization of their own bodies. What does that mean, and what does that look like?
Okay, so let me first quickly give you the term itself. Biomedicalization is a term used in sociology, and it is to capture conceptualizing ideas and practices that one consider social. Alcoholism, for example, delinquents, something like this, as the moral or legal issues, and conceptualizing them as a medical issue. And once they become a subject of the medical domain, then you remove the legal and the ethical discussions, and then it becomes an issue that can be resolved and mediated and ameliorated through medical intervention. Now, in the specific case of aging and anti-aging, is that if you conceive the visible signs of aging as signs of unwellness and signs of lack of self-care, and the consumer accepts that this can be ameliorated and remedied, then that becomes a two-way biomedicalization, because you have the structural biomedicalization of visible signs of aging, and the consumer accepting that, in fact, that this could be remedied and resolved, and youthful glow can be restored. So that is the kind of dialectical of how biomedicalization works, that it requires not only institutional and discursive biomedicalization, but the consumer also to accept that this can be remedied and something is wrong with them.
And even these coded words that they use in the cosmetics and pharmaceutical industry and some of these messaging behind it that you're mentioning, do you think most consumers are even aware of this?
I think the consumers are aware of not the exact science behind this, but they're aware of it in the sense that because of the notion of the glow in the high British imperial era, is that they consider notion of glowing, brighteners, and clean skin as a good thing. Now, add that to very enticing scientific icons and scientific claims, then people will consider these are desirable qualities, and science is something very powerful. So if you put the two together, then it's not too difficult to convince the consumers that this is both not invasive, achievable, and also good practice. It's a good self-care.
We'll be right back. Professor Mire, why has it been so hard to fight this kind of messaging in the beauty industry that fair or glowing, as you mentioned, is apparently the best and something to aspire to?
I think ageism is so powerful. I think we need to admit socially that how women, when they age, that women are marginalized, and I think, dare say, more than racism, ageism is both taboo. It has not been fully really theorized by feminists, strangely, and it is very damaging. Even I do have evidence of feminists actually approaching me and saying, do these things work? I mean, that's stunning.
Like she subscribed to the same messaging.
Exactly. Women are associated with their fecundity, desirability, and productivity in terms of desirable to heterosexuality. And when women reach the age of menopause, you see all the literature about restoring their youth with hormones, with whatever. Women are discussed once they reach a certain age as multiple ways how to avoid death. There is a little bit now discussion about things that are associated with the male aging bodies of male, but by and large, getting older, even asking women how old are you is considered to be impolite. I mean, there are evidence in the academia and in other domains, women literally editing out their CVs to hide, how long they've been at university. I mean, in the age where actually it's not easy to retire and the women are becoming poorer and poorer, in some cases, women resort to anti-aging as a literally strategic and not only as kind of like self-delusion. I mean, ageism is a very, very powerful tool.
Especially being a part of a society where after reaching that age, they're kind of deemed invisible in the social fabric, correct?
Absolutely. And actually, that is one category. Older women are by and large among the marginalized segment of our society. And I think this is why I have tried throughout my research to actually insist that we need to focus not only on racism, but also marginalizing effect of ageism. Ageism is very, very, very powerful. And it is one of those categories that even feminists have failed to properly address.
And the two messages are kind of tied together by the same products, apparently. Professor, what can people do to hold these companies accountable for the kind of message being put out there?
Well, thank you for asking me this question. Initially, in another venue, I actually said, nothing, these corporations, nothing will change. I corrected that message and saying the fact that Toronto Star is interested in this, the fact that other venues are interested in this, it will put a pressure. There will be more and more public awareness of the kind of insidious ways in which ageism and racism and sexism intersect. And I think this is where we need to keep the pressure. And I think the corporations will respond to public pressure. That's why they responded to Black Lives Matter.
And ideally speaking, moving forward, what would you like to see these companies do? And do you see a time when these companies stop selling these products? Or do you think they'll just continue to remarket and repackage it?
The markets is too lucrative for them to abandon it willingly. But just like tobacco, just like other companies, immense pressure, and they will respond to public pressure. I'm certain of that, but not without massive global pressure.
Thank you so much for that insightful conversation, Professor Mire, and for your time.
Thank you very much.
That was Amina Mire, an associate professor of critical race theory and women and health at Carleton University. That's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. This Matters is hosted and produced by me, Sabai Tazaz, Adrian Chung, and Raju Mutter. Produced and mixed by Sean Pattenden, and our director of programming is JP Fozo. Our show theme music is by So-Called, and our episode music is by Mike DeAngelis. We want to hear what stories matter to you. Please send us comments, questions, or ideas to thismatters@thestar.ca. Please consider supporting the journalism the Toronto Star newsroom does at thestar.com. And don't forget to subscribe to This Matters on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Let's talk soon.